Just a reminder that any thoughts, opinions, and points of views expressed during this podcast are those of the individual and not of the Grand Lodge, a pendant body, or concordant body that individual may belong.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody. This is Pen and Compass Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Bennett, along with my co host. I guess I'm the co host, Rodney McGillvary. And tonight we are having a great discussion with Andy Albright of South Carolina. You get to know a lot more about him and his books, what he's authored, what he's done in his local and around the state areas, and just him as a Freemason and as a person. So, welcome, Andy. We're glad you're here.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Glad to be here. It's always an honor to be asked to do these kind of things and looking forward to it.
Well, we are excited to get a chance to talk to you. I have gotten to meet you virtually like this and kind of electronically, and looking forward to the first time that we can spend some time together. And Rodney's always down for that too. He likes to road trip and go do stuff. So,
Oh, absolutely. It'd be great. Yeah, if y'all looking for something to do, we've got a Masonic Comedia coming up in February next year here in Charleston.
we,
I'm
we, we
excited to
can
hear about it.
we can talk
Yeah.
about that. Yeah. So you're part of the Perfect Ashler Publishing author lineup. You've done one
Mhm.
book with them, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about that here in a second. And then you've got three other books that you put out, and we'll go over all that. Um, so what made you start wanting to write these books about Freemasonry and these subject matters?
Writing for me has just always been something I've enjoyed doing. It came across in college when I wrote a 102 term paper. It was a literary analysis of the poetry of Robert Frost and his use of nature or his personification of nature and use of that persona as a metaphor. And the college wind up publishing that term paper, and from then I was hooked. Uh, but it would be decades before I became a Mason, and I recalled having that skill, and uh, I started getting involved in education, presenting education lectures, and then it said someone, his name is Jay Wallace, and he said, you do all these educations, you should put something in a book. All right, let's try that. Let's see how this goes. And I wrote my first book, and it's on the short side, but very pointed and direct. And I noticed how brothers were reading the material and they were coming up to me saying, "Hey, Andy, really appreciate this. You showed me some things I hadn't thought of before." And then from then I was hooked. Like, okay, I'm gone.
I,
Let's do this.
I think Rodney and I both have similar backgrounds and kind of same thing for me. It'd be about 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, got
Mm-hmm.
published in the Knights Templar magazine,
Mm-hmm.
an essay article uh, breaking down some symbolism within that degree um, work, and it took off from there. I was asked to do short talks and things like that, and the Grand Royal Arch chapter, and have become kind of that niche kind of study guide guy. Yeah, but yeah, I get it. It's awesome, Rodney. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it seems like the fraternity offers more opportunity to write and get things published more so than a lot of other avenues that are out there.
I think you're right, Andy. I think for Rodney and I both, we've always written stuff going back to. I know me. I have documented. I wrote a poem at 9 years old. 9 years old. I mean, I'm sure it was some kind of assignment or something like that. But at the same time, I did it, and I remember it was a gift from my grandmother's. So,
Do you remember like those blank white hardback books that you get in like elementary school for like writing to try to win the Young Authors Award? Did you guys have that?
I remember that or something like that. Yeah. I never did that, but I started um, writing poetry before I became a Mason. And I wrote one poem called On That Day. And basically it starts off with, tell me, death, when you come for me, what is it you think you'll see? Will I bow before your terrible blade, all my prayers of penance made? And it goes on to like this. And it just finishes with, um, that death is not the one I fear, but his brother life, who year to year reminds me time is passing by and could be gone before I fly. So come for me, death, if you will. You will never find me still. The poem actually had a lot of Masonic overtones. I wrote it 10 years before I became a Mason.
It's not surprising.
Yeah.
Did you title that Memento Mori?
Oh, no, it was titled On That Day. And I think it's actually in the first book I published. And then I wrote a companion to that called Misery. And basically it's the opposite effect. It's someone who is just all they've done all their life is work, and they've never taken the time to actually enjoy life. And now they're in a point in their life where they can't do anything and have that regret in life. So yeah, and that's kind of where the writing came into play. The more I started writing, the more I started enjoying it. And then when I got into Masonry and got an opportunity to employ this gift and use it, it just exploded. And it first started with a couple articles in the Scottish Rite Journal.
Cool. Like, yeah, the Southern Jurisdiction House of the Temple Scottish Rite Journal.
Yes.
What time frame was that?
The first one was in 2019, called Masonic Roots Run Deep. And it explored my family's connection to Freemasonry that goes all the way back to around 1730 in the city, in Charleston area.
Cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think, we do have kind of some structured questions and things, but when you bring up something, sometimes I like to chase after that a little bit. And I think one of the things that I would like to almost tell the audience, and I think the three of us will echo this, is how much it means whenever someone says something very nice and polite, but kind of generic, kind of high level, and they say, I really enjoyed this or whatever. And I can't help myself. And a lot of times, especially because we're doing this out of love and not for a lot of cash money, or we're not flying around on private jets because we've written these essays or poems or done these presentations had 70 PowerPoint slides or something. Really, our only payment a lot of times is just that encouragement. But we'd love to hear the detailed, like, what did you like? Not even if the person's the right person. I even like what could you see improvement on, or what did you kind of where did I lose you at any point? Those type of things, especially in a live kind of presentation. So
yeah, I look forward to getting what it is called constructive criticism. Did I talk over your head? Was it going too far down the rabbit hole and I kind of lost you? Because you want that kind of feedback so you can adjust and make the education or whatever lecture you're giving more meaningful to the audience.
And I kind of want it to be alphabetical. I want it to be, I don't know if I want it to be CC, constructive criticism. I think I want it to be E and F, encouragement and feedback. And it be really a positive thing of, because sometimes it's tough to hear that one thing that wasn't maybe perfect, especially whenever you're starting to do this and you don't have the confidence, or you don't you're not kind of invested in yourself yet. You don't know yourself as well. Maybe it's an age thing, or you just haven't written that much or done these, and you're kind of seeking that that validation. What do you think, Rodney?
Yeah, that's true, but also I think it might be you got to maintain like a state of constant evolution, personal evolution. So if you don't want that constructive criticism, you're gonna reach a dead end.
Well, and that's why I said encouragement and feedback. I mean, if someone's listening to this and if we're inspiring them to, you know what, I like to write things. You know what, I've got some my own fresh takes or insights in my mind on Freemasonry and symbolism or this side or the other. I would encourage them once they have those trusted people around them.
Mhm.
Whenever they say, "Hey, here's my work. What do you think of it?" That hopefully that person's got enough awareness to go, I need to tell them really good things, and then I need to hit them with some feedback in kind of that order. Like, not just build them up to tear them down, but really kind of,
Okay.
this is really good and amazing. It'd make it even better, and look for enhance. I guess even could be double E, could be encouragement with enhancement.
Yep. And maybe even show you some of your own blind spots.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you've heard my presentation that I do on that. There's a whole section on that, right? In the first section, or there's a whole bit on that in the first section. So yeah, point of view and bias is there. And sometimes people say you should do this or that. I'm like, I appreciate it. I keep on kind of rolling the way that I'm going to roll, because that would change, I feel like, my voice, and I'm not really ready to do that yet. So I think you and I talked about that a little bit in the warm up, Andy, about kind of holding to your own vision, and I think that's another thing. So,
Yeah.
well, what do you feel? That's kind of a good segue. What do you feel is your strength as a Masonic author? And then I'll ask you the kind of second half of that.
What is my strength? A lack of confinement, I would say. Not being college educated or having a lot of formal instruction. The strength I have is being to look outside of conventional thinking or some kind of boxed in way of looking at Masonic symbolism and philosophies. It's that lack of training has actually allowed my mind to wander off into different directions and explore a lot of different possibilities. And it's shown in the educations I've given, and I've had some very experienced Masons come up to me and go, I've never thought of it that way, but you were absolutely right. And that, I think, is the strongest thing I've got that works for me in what I've written and what I present for educations in lodges and in my Scottish Rite Valley.
When you've done those live things, have you ever heard this? Who wrote that? Where did you find that? And they have to, especially if they come from a more academic, what you're kind of talking about, the other side of the coin from you and I, for sure. I think Rodney also. Rodney's maybe a little bit more academic than myself from what I know, but yeah, it's one of those things. I'm like, I read the ritual and I just thought about it really deeply, a long time.
I have there's a past Grand Master lives not too far from me, most worshipful brother David DeChant, and he's heard me give lots of lectures for all the degrees. And the one thing he gets up and he'll make this comment a lot is he says, Andy just doesn't memorize the words; he understands them. He's not just repeating what he's read and memorized. He's telling you what he's living. And that strength of understanding and learning and adapting, it comes through in the way I present things. So that and that's led me to look at ritual and different things and really start picking it apart by picking the words apart. I forget the name of the science, but there's and I mispronounce all the time.
Etymology. Well,
Yes.
you don't. Oh, well, you're talking about like in exegesis.
And
So that's when you break down like scripture is exegesis. When you break
yes.
down like a document, you're in and you're deeply analyzing it, and you're taking the etymology of the words, and you're taking
Hmm.
historical background of maybe a narrative and all the things that usually, well, Christian pastors and theologians and Jewish rabbis and things like that. They're doing exegesis is what that's called.
Oh,
Would you
yeah.
agree, Rodney? Is that the right term?
Yep, sounds right to me.
What comments do you have, Rodney, about what
I was
uh,
going to ask you,
you do?
I know you mentioned starting out writing. How soon after joining the fraternity did you start presenting?
Um, it was about 2 years. I got raised in October 30th, 2012. Um, I always tell people I was trying to beat the Mayan calendar. I wanted to make sure I get in there. Uh, in 2015, I joined the Scottish Rite. And it was after joining the Scottish Rite, I started getting involved in Masonic educations. And that's where kind of the writing picked up. So writing Masonically, it's only been about 10 years.
Okay. What was the springboard for that? Because just for my own personal perspective, I started presenting locally and writing locally because nobody in Indiana, at least where I was located, was doing education. So I started doing it myself.
Yeah. For me, it started with the Scottish Rite. Um, our lodges around here, a lot of them weren't doing any education for their monthly stated meetings. But that has changed a lot over the last few years. So when I got involved in the Scottish Rite, that's when it started taking place. They were looking for volunteers. I thought, you know what, this is something I can do. Let me see what I can come up with. Um, and it just springboarded from there. So I would say it was probably sometime late 2015, early 2016 is when the writing started to begin. And then the first article I published for the Scottish Rite Journal was in 2019. And it just took off from there. But the man who encouraged me to keep doing this is the late most worshipful brother Michael D. Smith. Um, if you're Scottish Rite, you might remember he passed away a few years ago while he was the Lieutenant Grand Commander of the Supreme Council. And he told
Southern
on
jurisdiction.
the Southern jurisdiction.
Rodney's in the northern jurisdiction.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Um, but he told me on multiple occasions, keep doing what you're doing, keep writing. You're putting South Carolina in a great light, and really bringing us up. And it started taking off with other brothers as well. It started inspiring more people, more brothers in the craft in the Charleston area to start doing more educations. And so there's been a great benefit from it.
Well, we're excited. Pin and Compass is a fluke accident. Rodney and I were going to do what, 4 or 5 other different themed podcasts, and they're still sitting there on
Yep.
paper in kind of the bucket or the vault or whatever for our
Hmm.
production group, and we decided um, about a year ago, and we invited Patrick Carr. I invited him and got Rodney all on a Sunday night, all ready to go. And Patrick had just written this book, was about 70 pages, the working tools about how to give a certain Masonic experience at the local level or state, whatever, at some group level. And I just started asking him questions and listening to him talk about his book and everything. And Rodney and I like, that worked out pretty good. Let's do that again. and so, and so, and so I think somewhere in here, we're hitting about 20 episodes. And then what I wanted to do with the concept, once I kind of retrofitted it, was I wanted to talk to people in Freemasonry that are brilliant, first of all. They're so talented, and give them a national, international platform for people to see like Freemasons have all these talents, all these God given gifts, and I wanted to just kind of share that with the world. Rodney and I are blessed to be in some different circles, and a lot of the people that we've had on the program are in that circle either
Mhm.
before or they are now,
Yeah.
and it's been a great experience to really kind of start bringing people together that were perpetually at a distance. I think that's in a lot of different, degree work, and that's what Freemasonry is about in general. But whenever you kind of dig the same stuff that they dig, um, it makes it really fun in a way. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here is just have these conversations that we always have. Just hit the Zoom record button while we're doing
Mhm.
it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And it seems like at the core, this group that he mentioned are a bunch of creatives that are really esoterically inclined as well. And that group is definitely growing all the time.
Well, it was already there. We're just starting to identify them and gather them. We're
Yeah.
starting to say,
Yeah.
almost like, hey, if you'd like to kind of, we're all going to hang out by this campfire underneath this tent. If you want to come hang out with us, we'd love to have you. You're welcome, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so you're doing some Masonic publishing also. We're going to talk about your individual books a little bit more, but you're doing Masonic publishing also. And
Mhm.
and what is that like? Because the two out of the three of us, I'm the only one that hasn't published something here, book lengthwise. So what do you feel about that process and your strengths there?
It's a challenge. Trying to come up with the material, um, writing it all out, and then uh, trying to figure out the formatting for the book when you go to publish it online. That's been the real challenge for me. Is but I've been described as a strength that sometimes is almost as much as a weakness. If I come across a problem, I'll either go over it, around it, under it, or I'll just drop my head and go through it. But it just doesn't deter me. But sometimes it also means I just don't know when to stop. So, whenever I come across a challenge in getting a book published or, trying to figure out how to get a book cover right, it just doesn't slow me down. I just keep monkeying around with it till I figure it out and go, that's how it works. Um,
So
but it-
were you self-publishing before you got published with Perfect Ashlar?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
my first two books are self-published.
We'll go on that here
And
in just a second. Just a second. Let me catch up with the visuals here. Y'all
Okay.
keep talking.
okay. Um, when I wrote the third book, I decided, you know what, this one's this one's going to be a game changer. I need to have this one professionally done. And I made some inquiries, and I talked with Right Worshipful Brother Robert Elsner. He was in South Carolina, and now he's teaching at University in Alabama. Um, he said, Andy, you should probably talk to Chris Galloway at Perfect Ashlar. Um, but yeah, the first book I published was Are You Hiram? Um, and the title, as it say, it's meant to be a challenge to a Mason to make you think about, are you conducting yourself in a life that's worthy of that title? Um, the introduction says that this isn't a book that tells you what it is to be a Mason. This is the expectations. So it challenges you at a personal level to look at your life, how you're conducting your life as a Mason, and decide for yourself, are you imitating that divine artist, that worthy artist, Hiram Abiff? Um, but what I didn't want to do was uh, keep the money for myself. And as it says in there, 80% of the money was generated from this book has been donated to charities.
Yeah.
Um, not just one, but about 4 or 5 different ones.
That's
Yeah,
how you get the labor of love right there.
You know, yeah, yeah. Winwood Farm Homes for Children is adopted by my lodge as our charity that we support. It's a state-run orphanage on the northern part of Charleston County. It's a boys' home, and I've got to go out there and be a part of a spring festival. Um, and it's a blessing to do, and it's a kick in the gut at the same time. Because you love being around those kids, and you feel this great sense of sympathy for them, that they're in a situation that they can't control. Um, so it's a worthy endeavor, but man, it's a tough it's emotional upheaval to go out there.
So my wife and I, and actually it's now our family, been blessed. I think Rodney knows this about my background. Royal Family Kids Camp. So it takes foster kids for 1 week and takes them to camp, and just tells them that their past doesn't have to equal their future, and that somebody cares about them, and on some level, that people that there are decent people in the world that have a certain level of just love and charity in their hearts, and we are a Christian ministry, and so we teach them about those type of things. Is the way I'll say it, and it's a lot of fun, and it's very age appropriate, 7 to 11 years of age. So gotten to do the same kind of things. So yes, those are wonderful, wonderful. Those are life-changing things. They make you appreciate and what you have. And the cool thing is myself, my wife, my son, my daughter, and then my daughter's boyfriend have all attended one of those weeks of camp in the last 20 years.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
And the particular camp where I'm at was actually founded out of the Bible study group that is in my church. So it's been a labor of love for us for a long, long time. Anyway, 575. That's crazy. Wow. 108 pages is kind of what I'm seeing here. And awesome. So let's talk about, like, Striking the Stone was the next book, correct?
Yeah, Striking the Stone is kind of a follow-on, if you will, to You Hiram. Because once you master what it takes to be a Mason, then you get into, well, what kind of impact is this going to have on my life? And that's what kind of drove me to write this next book. So this one gets into what you can expect to go on at a spiritual level inside yourself as you gain more light in Masonry, as you gain deeper understanding, you start doing practical application. It's transformative to your life, and so I kind of wanted to follow along that imagery of Mithras, as he's coming out of a stone, but he's chiseling it away from him and taking his own shape, which led me to that the cover photo on there. That is actually my picture that I took on Sullivan's Island when the tide was out. There are these massive boulders to help break up the wave. So I took some green leaf, some tree limbs, a gavel, and my large gloves, and laid them out on the rock to make this image to get the idea. And by the way, the gavel that's in there was given to me by a brother from Bogota, Texas.
I'm trying to think where that's either in the Panhandle or it's somewhere I think it's maybe in the East Texas. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look up Bogota. I know I'm trying to think of that. So we got a few towns where we're at.
Oh,
254 counties. So
yeah.
I think that's over in East Texas.
Would you say this book here touches a little bit more on the esoteric side of Masonry?
No, I don't think so. I think it deals more with the ramifications of becoming a Mason.
Okay.
and what you can expect to happen in your life and what kind of transformative properties you're going to get. I, I guess there may be some esoteric nature to it, but it's more of an attempt to explain what you should expect from yourself as a result of studying the degrees of Masonry.
I think Rodney, from the question, obviously I haven't got a chance to read the book, but the questions that he has in here in the description would start that self-awareness process that probably
Yep.
would lead to
Where
some
you
of those
start
things.
questioning the soul and whatnot.
Yeah, you'd start just looking around with a different lens
Mhm.
on, for
Mhm.
sure. Some different
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah. You see there, it says, what's the difference between ethics and morals? When I was going through the Guthrie College of the Consistory, uh, I wrote one essay that was a comparison contrast between Aristotle's ethics and Albert Pike's morals and dogma. And I used that essay in this book to help explain the difference between the two. Um, so it kind of gets into that kind of discussion. Um, and I guess you can see that in sort of an esoteric light.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah, that's some deep stuff.
that. I mean, you're starting to touch on philosophy and those type of things, and that's all kind of feeding into the things that we're a lot of times Rodney and I are pursuing, and we're trying to think. So moving on to your next one here.
Yeah.
Now wait a minute, am I in the right sequence? Is
Well,
this the next one, or was it the Divine Comedy? No.
Divine Comedy was the third one.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Um, this one, I was sitting in my break room before work one day, and I was looking over these 7 liberal arts and science. And I have been, it seems like I was doing something or had done something at looking at Newton's third law, which, says crudely, for every action is a reaction, and started looking at inverse properties of things. And I thought, you know what? Why not explore the inverse properties of the moral properties of the liberal arts and sciences, the Dante's Inferno? And it just lit up from there. Um, the Divine Comedy has been a favorite poem of mine since I was in high school. Inferno is the only thing I've ever read that actually scared me. The vision of it, the graphic detail of everything. And I read Stephen King and went to sleep without a problem, but this Inferno kept me awake. Um, so I started digging into it, and um, then it led to looking at the 3 great duties of a Mason and the 4 cardinal virtues. And I thought, you know what? This kind of matches the labors to move up the mountain of purgatory. And then I got looking at the Kabbalah and thought, well, there's 10 rings in Dante's Paradiso. There's 10 emanations. Let's see where this goes. 371 pages later is Masonic Comedia. And and I remember looking at my wife, and as I was writing this book and telling her, I said, this book is going to change my life at some point in time. I don't know how, I don't know when, but there's something about this book that's going to be special.
Hold off on that, and we'll get to that. How it is going to change your life in the
Mm-hmm.
next coming months. So,
Sure.
very Rodney, I'll defer to you. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, first off, I never considered comparing the Kabbalah to Dante's Inferno. That's fascinating. I've read Dante's Inferno, but it's been a long time.
Oh, no,
Not,
no. I compared the Kabbalah to Paradiso.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. I misunderstood you then.
Yeah. I compared those 7 liberal arts and sciences and their moral properties,
Okay.
and then looked at the inverse going through Dante's hell,
Okay.
vision of hell.
Very
And
interesting stuff. Which there's an actual somewhere in Italy, I forget exactly where, is where Dante wrote his Divine Comedy, and he used a specific mountain where there's sulfur coming out of the ground, and it's pretty intimidating place. I forget exactly where it is located, but
Yeah,
he used an actual place for his inspiration.
yeah. The introduction to this actually goes into a history of Dante's life. Um, his pretty much his expulsion from Florence, um, and then and actually the the his poem was originally just called comedy. The word divine wasn't added till 150 years after his death,
Okay.
and that's what it became, the Divine Comedy. There was another book he wrote that upset a cardinal pretty bad, and they wanted to exhume his bones, burn him at the stake, and excommunicate him as a heretic. But the city begged and pleaded and said, let's not do that. And they left Dante's bones to rest in peace. Florence he's not buried in Florence. I forget the name of the town where he's actually buried, but Florence has tried to get his remains returned to them. And this other city said, nope, y'all kicked him out. He's ours now. Deal with it. And so there are actually two different memorials to Dante in two different cities, but he's only buried in one.
It's probably a big tourist attraction, so they don't want to get rid of it.
Nope. Nope.
Well, I picked my background because it is one of these kind of images that there's angels kind of in these spirals or these hoops or these rings or something, and there's kind of this inner circle travel transportational thing, and I thought that was very. I always try to match what we're talking about some level to my background and things. So for me, I think this is awesome. This is taking something that's always been there and showing how Freemasonry is the great library. We always talk about like the library Alexandria, but over time, and especially the way it's kind of been put together, it's a lot like maybe the King James Bible, that it has so many different genres of literature inside of it. Freemasonry encourages us in so many different ways. There's poems, there's narratives, there's just kind of straight up prose. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we're consuming as Freemasons from a literary sense. And then this one, I love it because just like in Freemasonry, there's an artistic side to it. There's an imagery side to it. In Dante's Divine Comedy, Inferno, all those things inspired so many visual painting artists and sculptors and things like that. I mean, you can't go to a museum, I think, west of the Middle East and not and not find something that's been produced, or a copy or a replica or something like that. I mean, you go to Washington. We were talking about before in the warm up. You're connected to someone that works for the Library of Congress, and then you go to the Smithsonian museums and National Portrait and all these different crazy art galleries and places in Washington D.C. And you're going to pretty much on a daily basis trip over something that deals with Dante's influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the drawings that one artist did for Inferno, uh, this guy had to be is like an ancient version of Stephen King, with the way he just drew out everything and sketched it and did these card reliefs of it. And the one that strikes out to me that I still see it in my head to this day, is in the circle of hell for violence, and particularly the one for violence against self, or basically suicide, where the souls are these dead, dried out trees, and these harpies land on the trees and are snapping off the limbs, and they begin to spurt out blood, and then the limb regrows themselves. and for all eternity, that's what they have to suffer with. That one, it's just so graphic to see. It just burned in my head like a like a cattle prod. It's a permanent scar that's just never going to go away. But I see it, and in a lot of ways, I appreciate what this guy did. He really brought the words to life in artistic expression.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to move on from that one to your fourth book,
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the Kabbalah, a study of the Sephiroth. So tell us a little bit about that.
One of the things that's big with teaching the Scottish Rite is the Kabbalah. And I wanted to get into it and explore it a lot. Somebody, good friend Steve Hyatt, who's the chaplain in my lodge, said, Andy, if you really want to understand the complexities of the Old Testament, start studying Hebrew. So I thought, well, okay, I'll take that challenge. I got nothing else to do. Why not learn a language I'll never speak? So I started digging into the Kabbalah, and I saw the names of the different Sephiroths, and there were just these one-word explanations. I thought, well, that can't be right. There's got to be something more to this. And as I began to dig into Hebrew, Curtis Baines, who's my best friend and a brother, we've traveled a lot and all, is Jewish, and he said, "Well, Andy, you got to stop and think. Hebrew is not necessarily an alphabet like English. They're more characters. They're almost hieroglyphic in nature. They express an idea, a thought." I thought, I need to dig into this a little more. So I started looking at the Hebrew spelling of each of the Sephiroths. And when I did that, I started seeing all of these images in just a whole different light. This is definitely an esoteric book. No two ways around it. What it does is it takes each Sephiroth, and I break down each character in the spelling of that Sephiroth by its Hebrew character. And then at the end, kind of pull it together. And so instead of getting this one word meaning that Keter means crown, you get this deeper understanding of how it's actually close related to a window where light emanates from the center and it passes through something.
That's a powerful statement there.
Yeah, this goes way outside the box of conventional thinking and looking at Kabbalah. And so yeah, I published it and some folks have read it and I actually got to do a presentation on this at in Guthrie this last April. If you've ever been to their spring reunions, they do those little sidebar classes for everybody. And I did one Saturday afternoon on this, and the brothers were just eating it up. You know, they were just mesmerized.
I've gone to Guthrie, but for Grand Lodge, we're recording this in early October, and I'm gonna make an appearance. I won't say I'll be attending, but I'll make an appearance in the Sunday fall reunion. You know, the good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise, kind of thought there. So if planning and opportunity prevails, know a lot of those guys. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. But this is really a study guide. It looks like, and something that people can. This is also kind of one of those what we were talking about earlier. This would be a tool for them to look further into this. But it sounds like you've written it to where you've given them just starter material. They can go deeper.
Yes, the original title was going to be Understanding Kabbalah, a Layman's Perspective. And sometimes I kind of wish I had kept that on there, Maybe saying a study of Sephiroth is a little intimidating to some people who just don't think they can really understand it. But I really wrote this for a beginner study. Um, but there's no way to avoid the complexities of Kabbalah. I tried to simplify it as best I could, but it's still a very complicated system. Um, I did include a history of Kabbalah and how it's developed over the centuries, including one aspect that the tree of life that we're used to seeing, the arrangement of the Sephiroths on, um, in terms of age, is actually fairly new. It first showed up in the 14th century. Um, it wasn't always around. I also talk about there were three different Kabbalah systems. There's the Jewish Kabbalah, um, the Hermetic Kabbalah, and at one time, very short-lived, was a Christian Kabbalah. But it faded out very quickly because Christians started using it to try and force conversion on Jews and Muslims on the Iberian Peninsula. Um, so it was very short-lived and didn't hang around very long. Um, so you kind of get that history, you kind of you get an idea of where it's going and how it's developed, and then you get into kind of the nuts and bolts of the matter. But as you go through and you understand how these Hebrew characters work together, it just really opens up your understanding of this whole system, and understanding the essence of who God is.
So, not to take away from any of your luster, but we have had another one of our buddies. He's now, I wouldn't even call him a guest. So we did another episode with talking about the three kind of the three different, the Q type of Kabbalah, the C type of Kabbalah, and the K type of Kabbalah, and that would be T.J. Brumfeld. So even I think you would enjoy that, and he's got a presentation that he does on that that he did for Scottish Rite, and then we've invited him to do that in a couple other places. Rodney and I. Rodney, what do you have to say about all this extra?
Well, I'm gonna have to get your email address. Excuse me. Because do you remember the Masonic Society? It was a group of that had its own publication called the Journal of the Masonic Society. It became defunct, I think, last year, the year before, but a few years ago, I published a paper, or I had a paper published in there titled an essay or a Kabbalistic interpretation of Freemasonry, and I would love to send you that and get your analysis of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And books like this, I think, will give the Mason a deeper understanding of Masonry itself as well as the lodge itself, because the Kabbalistic tree of life is laid out within the lodge room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, the way the warden station and the master in the warden station, it's like right sitting at the top, the top three Sephiroths up there. But I there's some numerology discussion in here as well. In my typical fashion, I thought kind of outside the box on some things. Even though this is particularly Jewish Kabbalah, I did include a lot of some New Testament references as well. So it's broad spectrum. It's going to go to a lot of different places. Well,
Well, it sounds like you wrote it as you were the author of the book, because it sounds like you have those influences inside of you, and so I think it works if a lot of times if you are not just trying to include it, but you're not really don't feel an ownership to that subject matter.
But here's a quick question. What got you interested in studying the Kabbalah?
Well, I'm the degree master for the 4th degree, the Scottish Rite. And without saying too terribly much, it does mention Kabbalah in there. and it's been something I knew nothing about, didn't understand what it was. But I'm trying to encourage new Scottish Rite Masons to go study this thing, but I couldn't talk to them about it at all. So when Steve encouraged me to start studying, take a look at Hebrew and look at Hebrew of the Old Testament versus the English translation and see how they sometimes match and sometimes seem kind of different. It just led me to want to dig in this a little more. And once I started digging in, I just kept on going, and got the idea in my head. Well, I just finished Masonic Comedia. What can I do now? Let's write this. Let's see where this goes. Um, and then there it is. That was the fruit of my labor, was this book. Um, and it seems to be doing okay. The people who have read it, find it intriguing. Especially, I have one brother who he lives up in the Myrtle Beach area. He studies tarot cards a lot, and he's read the book, and it's opened his eyes up a little bit more. And that's all I really need. If just one brother reads this book and says, "Hey, I gained some understanding from it," that's a success for me. I change one life at a time. I'm good to go.
Excellent. So the way that I say that is, let those who have eyes see, let those who have ears hear.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Yeah.
And that's where the esoteric minded Mason comes into play.
Yeah. And so book number 5 is under construction. Probably be late 2026 when it comes out. But it's also Understanding Kabbalah, the 22 Pathways.
Cool. Well, we'd love to have you back on whenever you're ready for that, and be a little bit different episode. Probably just focused on that and maybe a few other things that you've done. We want to talk about something that we'll probably recap that. So you're going on a trip, I heard. You said something about you going on a trip.
Yeah, last Thursday morning, and was getting my breakfast ready, and email alert comes up on my phone, and I read it, and it says, "Hey Andy, congratulations! Your book, Masonic Comedia, Freemasonry: The Divine Comedy, has rose to the level of being selected as a finalist for the Arcana Veritoss Distinction Award, which is administered by the Magnus Geometra Research Society of the Grand Lodge of Scotland." So late the week of Thanksgiving, it looks like I'm going to be in Scotland, in Edinburgh, Scotland.
So just here in about a month, or a little over, about 6 weeks.
Yep. And the problem is I don't have a passport. I've never had one in my life. But I've got an appointment Tuesday to get all that squared away. And there's a branch here in Charleston for the State Department that will expedite it quickly if I need it.
So here's kind of everybody that's going to be at that. There's Masonic history books, and then this is your Masonic philosophy and symbolism books.
Yep, those are the other two brothers that are also finalists. Julian Reese has published about 6 or 7 different books. He's got his own website set up for it. Travis, he has a master's degree in business management and a bachelor's in health management or something like that. So 2 very worthy brothers, and it's just going to be a great event to attend.
And then down here, you're going to these guys will also be in attendance, and the one on the left there, I don't know how, Cameron Adamson, he's from Canada, and he actually interviewed me on his, he calls it square, and compass. So there may have been, I can't remember how closely there may have been some reason I called this pin and compass because of kind of that influence. But he and I have interacted a lot. I've never gotten a chance to meet him in person. It's always kind of been through Zoom or through like YouTube Live or something like that. He's a great guy, very enthusiastic. I would say that he is a friend of our podcast and of our production group, and very much someone that inspired me to kind of bug Rodney about putting this all together and what we do here. So the cool thing that we'll tell you, Andy, if you've never gotten a chance to be a part of an event like this and be on the talent side, is you almost, hopefully everybody is this way. You get to bond with those people. And Rodney and I were already really good buddies. We got the opportunity to have him travel down to San Antonio, and we had RJ Johnson, TJ Brumfeld. We've done a whole season of Pin and Compass with these guys, as well as Dirk Hughes and Ben Williams. And we were all staying in the same hotel. We were kind of riding together. We were literally, once they got off the planes on Friday afternoon until they got on the planes on Sunday, we were literally together for that whole amount of time. And I've gotten the chance to do that in Michigan before, and some other places too. And it's just an amazing effect that you don't realize that you're going to gain from all this. So, and it's really neat to walk in and be in this circle of men or authors or creators or whatever, and they respect what you do. And it really is, it helps you overcome some of your imposter syndrome. So I'll just put it that way. And we even had to work on, I'm not going to say which person's imposter syndrome. It's not me or Rodney, but we had to kind of sit there and talk to this one guy about that, like kind of throughout the whole weekend. He kept saying, I don't know why I don't know how I was chosen. This, that, and the other. It's like, man, you wouldn't be here if you weren't worthy of it. And so just always know that whenever you get these kind of things, it's kind of fun to say, hey, you know what? Somebody appreciates what I do. And as an artist, whether it be literary, whether it be music, whether it be visual, whatever you do, you just won't, we always have a certain level of ego within us. And we always have that personal kind of inner child or whatever that needs that. And so that's a cool thing. And hopefully the people that come and join us on Pin and Compass, we get to kind of refuel them a little bit. So what do you think about this, Rodney? Pretty cool, huh? I didn't know about this until kind of he told me about it yesterday.
Yeah, I never heard about this either. And congratulations. This seems like a very, very exciting moment. And you haven't had your passport, so you obviously haven't been over there yet. That's going to be an amazing time for you.
Yeah, it is. And I was at a something called a wedding shower last night for a good friend of mine who's she's about to get married next October. And one of the guests there, her daughter and daughter's boyfriend were just in Scotland. So I was able to talk to her and get some answers on, hey, how do I need to prepare for this thing? Can I get some kind of international phone package while I'm in country? Didn't think, oh yeah, I got to file for a visa because a passport alone just won't get me into country. I didn't know that. A lot of things are just falling into place like dominoes, kind of pointing in the right direction.
One of the things, we'll talk in the break. Remind me, we'll talk in the break about some of those things about traveling to Europe or UK or whatever. So I got some tips on that for you. So we'll end it right there because we have something that we need to share. This has been a great segment. Wonderful job. Thank you so much for going through your books for us and highlighting all those. And we're gonna take a pause. And after this, we'll come back from our break and go into segment 2. We'll talk a little bit more about Andy and his involvement in Freemasonry. So we'll see everyone when we come back.